Dreams can be so weird. On the next Mystic Fix, we're going to explore dreams and dreaming and what it all means. Hope to see you then.
Mystic Fix, a program for the whole being with Julia Gordon-Bramer on NewsTalkSTL.
Welcome to Mystic Fix. I'm Julia Gordon-Bramer. I'm a poet, I'm a professional tarot card reader, and I'm a scholar of mysticism. And I am real excited to be talking today about the Moon Tarot card. The moon is about all kinds of subconscious dreams and influences that pull on us, much like the moon pulls on the tides of the ocean. So today we've got two incredible guests. We've got Laurel Clark, who is a dream expert, and we've got the psychic witch, Matt Aaron. Now let's get into our interview with Laurel. Hi, Laurel.
Good morning.
Laurel Clark is the owner of Whole Life Resources, a dreamologist, a counselor, a mentor, a speaker, an author, an interfaith minister. You were the former president of the St. Louis School of Metaphysics, and we have had representatives from that school before on our show, and the former president of the International Association for the Study of Dreams. And dreams are what we're going to talk about today, in line with the moon card, which is all about dreams and all of that.
Thank you.
I thought first we might go into the significance of dreams, why it's important to even pay attention to them.
You know, that seems like an obvious question for people who do pay attention to their dreams, but not everybody does. So to me, when there's a universal experience, it makes sense to me that there has to be a purpose for it. And dreams are a universal experience. Everybody dreams every night. Some people don't remember their dreams, and because of that, they think they don't dream, but we all do. And the reason why they're so important is that they come from the inner self, what some people would call the soul. There are some dreams that I think come from spirit or from our divine essence. So as we go through our everyday lives and we get busy doing the physical things we do, work, taking care of kids, whatever it is that we do, sometimes we can kind of forget or turn away from the inner self or the soul or the spirit, which is why we're here, and it's what nourishes us. So dreams are an open door that can help us to access that.
So you don't think it's, so many people sort of poo-poo it and say that it's just the brain kind of releasing the excess of the day and whatever that is. So you do find deep subconscious significance.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I've heard some people say, "Oh, dreams are something to do with the food I ate last night," or something like that. What led you to study dreams and dream interpretation?
I think I always was interested in dreams. I mean, I can still remember some dreams that I had when I was kindergarten age. And I don't really know at what point I started keeping a dream journal. I know that when I was a kid, I used to write a lot. I do know that I reawakened my dream journaling practice when I was in college. I was taking a creative writing class, and I had a friend who wrote poetry that had beautiful imagery, and I was kind of envious because my poetry I thought was brainy and not that interesting. So anyway, I asked her, where do you get these images from? And she said, they're from my dreams. So she was the one who encouraged me to put a notebook by my bed, because I knew at that point that I was having dreams, but I also knew that after I was awake for a while, I didn't remember them. So that was 1976 that I regularly began to record my dreams. And then I went to a counselor a couple of years later who was a Gestalt therapist, and she worked with dreams. So that was when I first started to use those dreams beyond creative inspiration to really understanding myself. And then I've kept it up ever since then.
That's really interesting that you have dreams you remember from being a child, because I do too. And I had a recurring dream as a kid where bad guys, my dad used to watch these sort of detective shoot 'em up movies on
Mhm.
Sunday mornings in our house. And so these were like gangster guys, and they would kidnap me, but they were forcing me to drive the getaway car with a gun to my head. And I had this dream 5 or 6 times as a child, and I was so paralyzed because I didn't know how to drive. And and I look back on it, and I really do think that reveals a lot about my fearfulness as a kid, and I was sort of on my own very much and kind of floundering and didn't have a lot of guidance. And so, yeah, I think that there was a lot of fear that came up. What do you think about those kind of recurring dreams? Do you think that's a message that's just screaming at us that we have to pay attention to?
I do. If you think about it, if you had a friend who was in trouble or who needed help, and you offered some kind of advice and they didn't listen to you, probably you might wait a little while, but you probably would present it again. You wouldn't just try one time and then give up. And I look at our dream self as being like a friend that wants the best for us, that wants us to grow, that wants us to heal. And so if there's something that we're missing in our waking state of consciousness, the dreams will give us some assistance. And if we don't listen or don't remember, it will present it again until we do start to pay attention.
Do you believe we share common symbols? Sometimes I look at some of these dream interpretation books, and they seem a bit, this means that, and this other thing means this other thing. And it just seems a little, maybe, there could be cultural bias, there could be just age bias. People haven't all experienced the same kind of things for symbols to be universal necessarily. Or do you disagree with that?
I do believe that there are universal symbols. I don't believe that there are universal meanings. And what I mean by that is a car, for example. Even if we lived in a culture that didn't have cars, there would be some kind of similar vehicle, like a rickshaw or a small boat or something like that. And the purpose of a small vehicle is to get us from place A to place B. So if you look at the metaphor or the imagery of that, a related in our waking life vehicle that gets us meaning the soul, the inner self, that gets us from place A to place B is our physical body. So I believe when someone has a dream about a car or some other small vehicle, it's a dream about their body, their physical body. Now, in terms of what that means, like let's say you and I had a dream that we were driving up a hill and ran out of gas. So a hill, I would interpret as some kind of challenge or obstacle. And the car being the physical body, the gas is fuel for the car. So universally, I would interpret that as saying each one of us has a challenge or obstacle in our life. As we are trying to deal with it, trying to overcome it, we're getting exhausted, we're running out of gas. But individually, we each would need to say, okay, well, what is the challenge in my life? Is this a challenge? Is it an obstacle? And what am I doing that's causing me to get exhausted? For me, it might be I'm worrying too much. For you, maybe you're burning the candle at both ends. So that's where the individual dreamer's determination of how does this apply to me? What's going on in my waking life, my waking state of consciousness? That's where the individual interpretation comes in.
You've got me thinking of 2 recurring dreams now. One my husband has. He's had his whole life these airplane dreams where a jet of some kind will crash and he will be running. He's always on the ground. He's not on it, but he's running to help or running to get to the wreckage. And in our marriage, he's had this dream, gosh, more than 10 times, I think. And he's always like, oh, had another airplane dream. And I'll be darned if I can figure that out. And I'm usually pretty good at decoding dreams, but that one, I don't know. You got any ideas?
So if it's a large plane, like a passenger vehicle, I would interpret that as a group or organization. So
Mm.
the airplane crashing, it could be his job, it could be an organization he's involved with, it could be a church, that would be up to him to determine that there's some kind of crash that's happening and he's trying to save the day.
Yeah.
So if it's recurring, what I do when I have a recurring dream is, if I can, to relate what's been happening in my waking life and my waking, not even so much the events, but more in my thinking. And what are the parallels in the times that I'm having this dream today and I had it a month ago? And that can help me to see how it's related to my waking state.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. So what techniques do you use to interpret dreams? I know when I was in a writing group, we had a sort of a creative exercise, and we would write the words. Well, first of all, we would write out every detail of our dream we could remember, and the feelings, and if we could smell something or hear something, the most minute details. And then we would write the phrase "part of me" after every noun. So I would be like, the Julia part of me is talking to the Laurel part of me on the Mystic Fix part of me, and I would be going on through this. And it made an interesting kind of sense when we were done. So that was a technique that I learned. But how do you approach it?
So that's a good technique that you're describing, because it helps the dreamer become aware that everything in the dream is a part of them, that the people are not really other people. It's different aspects of ourselves that those people symbolize to us. I don't use that phrase, but I do look at dreams from that perspective of everything in the dream being a part of me or a part of the dreamer. Another really helpful thing is to, especially if it's a long, involved dream, to give it a title. And you can probably relate to this because you're an author. To title a dream involves encapsulating its essence. So, like, let's say I had a long, involved dream that I was trying to get somewhere and I couldn't find where I was going. And then I discovered that I lost my wallet, and then I couldn't forget who I was supposed to meet. If I were going to title that, I might title it as Lost, because even though seem like disconnected scenes, the common theme is that I
Right.
lost something. I lost my way, I lost my wallet, I lost my calendar. So giving it a title can help to kind of bring together what seem like different elements of the dream into the common meaning. Another really helpful way to look at a dream is to draw a picture of it, because in a similar way, drawing a picture can help us to kind of put together the main theme. Another thing is to look at the dream as a story and say, okay, I have the title. What's the theme? Who are the characters? What's the plot? Some dreams don't have a plot. Like, I sometimes have dreams that are a conversation without any action. And so that can help to give the dreamer some, uh, what the essence of the dream is.
Okay. What do you say to people who don't think they can remember their dreams?
So that's a pretty common experience. And there are things that people can learn to remember dreams. First of all, is to have good sleep habits. So, especially in this day and age, if we're looking at a phone or a computer or a TV screen shortly before going to bed, it interferes with being able to fall asleep and to get into that deep state of sleep. So, one thing I would recommend to people is to stay off of devices if they can for an hour or even two before going to bed, and to do other things that can help promote deep sleep, like not having any lights on in the room, using room darkening curtains, not having noise in the room. So, the more quiet and dark the room is, the easier it is to go into that deep state of sleep. And it's very important to have something to record the dreams, like a notebook that you put by your bed. Some people like to use a voice recorder. For me to speak the dream out loud, I have to wake up too much, so I prefer to write it down.
Yeah.
And then before going to sleep, to tell yourself, I want to remember my dreams. And that might seem really simple, but most people don't even think about that before they go to sleep. And our mind is very responsive to our desires. So if I'm telling my subconscious mind, I want to get to know you, I'm interested in what you have to tell me, I want to remember the dream, and then I'm prepared to capture it with a notebook there, that in itself can make a huge difference in remembering dreams.
I have pages and pages of notebooks with this very childish scrawl from I'm writing in the dark, and sometimes one line is on top of another, and it can be a real bear to translate in the morning. But that's important to me too. And sometimes I'll get lines from poems and that sort of thing. Gosh, Laurel, I could talk to you all day about this. This is so much fun. What projects do you have coming up? Is there anything you'd like to talk about?
Sure.
Well,
I have
first
a couple
of all,
of
I know it's
classes
short
coming up.
notice,
I'm going to
but
be teaching
if
one
anybody is
on
interested
healing
in
dreams,
a fantastic
how
conference
to
on dreams,
ask for dreams.
the International
Association
of Physical
Disorder
Dreams
Healing
has their annual
emotional
conference that
difficulties
starts
and another
June 17th. It
class
goes for
coming up
5
on
days.
discerning your life.
Part of
purpose
it
with
you can
dreams.
attend
virtually.
Nice. And how do
I
people
have a
reach you,
couple of
Laurel?
classes coming up.
They
I'm going
can
to
go
be
to my
teaching
website,
one
which
on
is laurelclark.com,
how to
or they
ask
can
for dreams
email me
to help
at
with Laurel
healing a
at
physical disorder,
laurelclark.com.
healing
emotional
Perfect.
difficulties.
Thank you so much for
and
being on
another
Mystic Fix, and
class
hope
coming
to have
up
you on
on
again
discerning
sometime.
your life.
Thanks,
purpose
Julia.
with dreams.
Hope you have
Take
sweet
care.
dreams. Nice.
Thank
Nice.
you.
And how do don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with author, psychic witch, Matt Oren.